Hello, friends. Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to the special edition of Insights at the Edge Live. It is a great joy and an honor to be able to share this time with you and with Jon Kabat-Zinn. Please join us afterwards. We'll be having an after show Q&A. You can write your questions into the Q&A box and bring them forward and bring yourself forward and be part of our conversation. And now, for those of you especially who aren't familiar with Jon Kabat-Zinn, let me say a few things. Professor of Medicine Emeritus at the University of Massachusetts Medical School, where he founded its world-renowned MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Clinic in 1979, and the Center for Mindfulness in Medicine, Healthcare, and Society in 1995. Jon's also the author of a series of research papers on MBSR dating back to 1982. And there's a whole lot that I could share with you about Jon Kabat-Zinn if I were to put it into a nutshell here. What I want to say is that he has been so influential in introducing millions of people worldwide over the past 4+ decades to the power of mindfulness, hugely influentially so. He's written 15 books, including a new book with Sounds True, which is what our conversation is going to be focused on. It's called Mindfulness Meditation for Pain Relief. Jon, welcome.
Thanks, Tami. It's just wonderful to be here with you and with everybody else.
Okay, Jon, to start, chronic pain is a huge problem for so many people worldwide, for so many of us. In America alone, I read this statistic in preparing for our conversation. 20% of the population, 50 million people, report suffering from chronic pain. And I wanted to start to learn more how you view chronic pain.
Well, my exposure to chronic pain came when I started the stress reduction clinic, the MBSR clinic at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, as you said, back in 1979. And the idea was, excuse me, to catch people falling through the cracks of the healthcare system. Back in 1979, now the cracks are chasms. It's like the Grand Canyon of falling through. So to offer them something that they might be able to do for themselves as a complement to whatever medicine could do for them, to attenuate or regulate whatever medical condition they had. And then right when I was getting started, the pain clinic at UMass heard about it and said, well, we got lots of people we can send you. So they started sending me all of the people who did not respond to the traditional pain regulation treatments that they were using, like lidocaine injections, spinal injections, all sorts of different kinds of therapies. And so we were getting the people who, as they put it in the medical language, were failures to that, who were like, there's nothing left for them. We'll send them to the stress reduction clinic. And I thought, oh my God, before we even get started, we're going to be dead on arrival, because how are we going to be able to handle people who have had no success with pain regulation with the medical treatments? And what I found out was that they became my teachers and demonstrated that these meditative practices that are thousands of years old, and they really have to do with suffering in all its different forms, emotional as well as physical, social as well as physical and emotional, but that in particular, people who are suffering with chronic pain conditions, which are defined as a pain condition of more than 6 months duration anywhere in the body. But that could include emotional pain as well. And what they would say after the 8 weeks of training in fairly rigorous for the time mindfulness meditation practices, including mindful hatha yoga, by the way, so some degrees of movement and flexibility and balance and strength building, they were saying things like, you've done more for me in 8 weeks than my medical team has done for me in 8 years. And I was just staggered to even hear that and said, well, I'm so happy for you, but there's one correction I need to add, and that is that I didn't do it for you. You did it yourself. So these practices based on these ancient meditative uh, ways of learning how to be in the body and to be in one's own heart and mind in ways that minimize suffering are have been demonstrated over the years to be totally appropriate for people living in the time that we're living in now. And so, yes, there was a lot of research that we did in the early days, and now there's even more. But I was staggered to say, if I could go on just a little bit with this line of that last week, I think it was, a paper came out in the premier scientific journal of them all, Nature, the title of which is Chronic Pain, The Long Road to Discovery, written by a woman named Lucy Odling Smee, who it turns out sat a meditation retreat that my son Will and I led a number of years ago at Omega. And in reading this article, what I discovered is that almost nothing's changed since 1979 in terms of treatments for the people who have chronic pain. Yes, they've done a lot of neuroscience on pain and stuff like that, but basically people are still left to their own devices or the usual kind of chemical attempts to regulate things, or surgeries for back pain or other kinds of pain that very often I would see people who had 3 or 4 failed back surgeries, and then now what am I supposed to be doing? And people actually found ways to live with the actuality of what they were experiencing and to live relatively well. So that was a real eye opener for me, and really affirmed that we were on the right track in terms of bringing these ancient meditative practices into the mainstream of academic and sort of high level modern medicine.
Can you help our listeners understand, John, how I could use mindfulness meditation to help me with chronic pain? Let's just take back pain
Yeah.
because it's
And
so
let me just
common.
say that
Yeah.
knowing this was coming up, I actually sat down and read large sections of this new book that we just came out with. And I have to say, it's exactly what I most hoped it would be. It's meant to be so user friendly that it's almost not a book. It's more like a friend. And of course, there are guided audios, meditation practices. But this is the first time in my life ever in a book that I've put the text of the guided meditations into the book itself. So you could actually listen through your ears, but actually also read along or separately the text of them. And it's designed in such a way with the imagery in the book and so forth to actually be offer an experience of momentary solace all by itself when you're really confronting the rending dimensions of pain where you just don't know what to do anymore, and either the drugs don't work or there's you've tried everything. Well, the one thing you probably haven't tried is to turn towards and befriend what you most want to be liberated from and get away from. And that's what the entire book is about. So to come back to what you were suggesting, what mindfulness is really about when all is said and done is learning how to inhabit a superpower. I've come to think of it in these terms, riffing on or following on the example of Greta Thunberg, who speaks about her autism as a superpower. I think what the Buddha was teaching was that human awareness is really an incredibly powerful gift that everybody already has. So it's not something you have to get, or the misunderstanding of meditation is you have to become a good meditator. You have to strive to keep your mind still and balanced and penetrative in terms of insight and focus and try to be a good meditator. But that's not what it's about at all. It's about learning how to inhabit this functionality that we already have, which is called human awareness, and to sustain that inhabiting of it. And then it transforms your relationship to everything, including pain and suffering. So you can experiment with this a lot, but to bring it down to the sort of nitty gritty, in terms of your question, the first place to start usually in any meditative tradition is you start with the body. In the Buddhist tradition, it's called, as you know, the first foundation of mindfulness, the body. And everybody has a body, you know. We've never found anybody who doesn't have a body. And the people that we get come to the hospital or to MBSR because of pain. So the body is not the way I want it to be. And of course, all we want is for someone to come in and cut it out or fix it or just make it go away. And when you find out that that's not going to be too likely, then you're thrown back on your own devices. And what mindfulness will say is, okay, well, let's just start from scratch. How is it in the body right in this moment? And how do you even know? Well, the only way you know is by attending to the body, by actually paying attention to my elbows killing me or my shoulders killing me or my jaws killing me. But actually, when you start attending, you realize those actually aren't sensations. Those are thoughts. And a lot of them are emotionally freighted thoughts, like, I can't stand this, it's going to ruin my entire life. And that amplifies the experience of pain and suffering. So if you develop a kind of constancy in your meditation practice over just even a few days, never mind a few weeks, which is all we're talking about, come to realize that, holy cow, I may be contributing to actually amplifying and exacerbating what I call my pain. And that it's possible to actually turn towards it and befriend it, actually, put the welcome mat out for the sensations and learn to inhabit that space of awareness. Like that becomes your apartment or your house or your home. And you dwell in awareness as opposed to in thinking and emotions and stress reactivity. And then you can explore what it feels like in the only moment you can ever experience anything, which is now. And when people do this, or when I do this, and I'm sure it's true for you as well, or anybody who meditates, you find out there's a whole other dimension of experience that is inhabitable. And that is awareness. It's like, and we all have it. So it's not something you have to get or meditate for 50 years in the Himalayas and then you'll get it. No, you have it. What's the barrier? The barrier is accessing it, because we're so self-distracting. And then now the world, of course, much more than in 1979, is digital Armageddon in terms of distractibility, the attention economy or the disattention economy. So we're up against a lot, but the message is it is doable. You can thread this needle and everybody will do it their own way. So it's not like you have to fall lockstep into some kind of, weirdo universe, but you're actually befriending yourself and investigating who the hell that is, because it certainly is a lot bigger than the story you tell yourself. No matter, even if you don't have chronic pain, you're probably telling yourself some story that's going to feature many elements of inadequacy or unhappiness, or why, if this, wasn't this way, then I'd be, be so much better off. All of which, again, pointing out just thoughts. And most of our thoughts are just completely wrong. I mean, they're just wrong. And then the emotional stuff that goes along with them. Also, a kind of turbulence of the mind that's unnecessary to get caught up in.